country like South Africa without new democracy, you would think that kids would be invested in to ensure that there is a continuum of a country. I think one of the biggest things when AIDS first manifested itself is it was a death sentence. And it was a death sentence, no doubt about that. It's now a chronic manageable disease, and we are asking people to accept it.
HIV is really, unfortunately, still a massive scandal in our communities.
Some people still stigmatize people because of HIV. How people are going to view you now, being an HIV positive person.
I don't know how many people are infected in Soweto. Neither do I know how many people are orphaned in Soweto. But all that I'm seeing are streams of children who come in here, and that says to me, we're having a challenge here. And I would need my leadership here to take that call, with two hands. And at the moment, I'm not seeing it, and I'm hoping that it becomes clear to them as leadership that these roots, these things that we try to put under carpet, sometimes are going to come out and bite us one day. And they really are, they really are.
People are very afraid of HIV. They don't recognize that it nowadays is actually just like diabetes or any other chronic disease. You can take medication for it and live a normal life. But because of the stigma and the history, people resist it.
HIV and AIDS is a manageable disease these days. And there's been so many losses in the past when maybe it wasn't. The medication wasn't there, it wasn't available, it wasn't that good, and many lives were lost. It is a disease that can be managed, so people really shouldn't die prematurely of HIV.
In South Africa, for every one man that's infected, there are 3.5 women. And maybe one of those three will be in a long-term relationship. The others are young girls and abandoned and just literally left holding the baby. Gail Johnson, director of Nkosi's Haven. Nkosi's Haven is actually named after my late foster child who died from an AIDS-related disease in 2001. And we formed Nkosi's Haven because no child should be separated from its mother because of the HIV diagnosis. So I said to him, should we start something for moms and kids? And he said yes. So I said, okay, cool. And I am not even a pinprick in the ocean, let alone a drop.
Aren't you supposed to be snoozing? Aren't you supposed to be snoozing?
So it's nap time, just the start of nap time, which is always a little bit fun. My name is Pippa Jarvis, and I've been managing director here at TLC for the last 10 or 11 years, and we're working on making ourselves a model of a children's home that works for the rapid, responsible placement of children into adoption. And our focus is finding families, forever families, for babies that have nobody. We, as a family, took in 2 children, abandoned children from the local Johannesburg region, and we chose to raise them in our family. And over the years, 2 became 4, 4 became 8, 8 became 12, and now we have 73 children in our house. We've placed 760 children into adoption over those years, almost 18 years. And we really champion the cause of the right for every child to have a family and not to grow up in an institution, because it's not an ideal way of life and it doesn't produce citizens of a country. It produces dependents, and that's not what we want. We want to equip them and nurture them to a point where they can be productive citizens, where they can be good fathers and good husbands and good politicians and good teachers and lawyers and doctors and those things. And if you don't invest quality from the outset, you don't get quality at the end. In an ideal world, a place like this, an institution that cares for vast volumes of children, wouldn't be necessary, and it would be lovely to live in that sort of a world, but it's not realistic. We don't live in that world, and so often mothers find out that they're HIV positive during their pregnancies. But these are not mothers as such. These are young girls who are struggling to survive in a world that's very harsh. These girls are just desperate to just be what the world tells them they should be, beautiful Rihannas and Beyoncés and, and have all these things. And a lot of our mothers have got 3 or 4 or 5 children in care because the men choose not to practice safe sex because they feel it's demeaning to their manhood. In Africa, it's a very common problem. And so these mothers go to hospital, they find out that they're pregnant and they find out that they're HIV positive. The trauma of the HIV usually overwhelms the joy of the baby, and often they carry their babies only for 6 or 7 months because their bodies are now suffering with HIV and the body sees the baby as a liability. But children are not supposed to die as children. It's just wrong, and my heart and everything in me tells me that it's wrong, and so it's devastating every time. And you never quite are the same afterwards. You always carry that with you, and that question mark about, well, what was God thinking? Why did he let that happen? But I have to trust that he has a reason. There's a great analogy, and I've used it a lot of times. It's probably old by now, but I'll use it again for now, about a little girl throwing starfish back into the ocean after a storm. And then her parting line when somebody says, well, you're wasting your time, is she says that to each one that I throw back, I'm making the world of difference. That was important for that starfish. And these children are my starfish. Every hour that I spend in the middle of the night cuddling or caressing a baby, and every day that I spend in a principal's office for a teenager, and every minute that I spend at the store buying milk, and every hour that I sit on a bench at the hospital, those are all for my starfish, and it fulfills me. It really does. And I really do believe that when I'm finished and my life is over, the children that have been through this place and the children that have received the love and the care and the passion that we have here will be loving and caring and passionate adults. And that excites me. It thrills me. So.
I think we need to go back to those times when communities were so important. I was raised by all women in my street, even when my mother wasn't there, And I think we need to go back to that again, so that we truly bring the spirit of Ubuntu, which means we can grow as a communities. That it takes a village to raise children. My name is Carol Janji. I was born and bred in Soweto. I am the founder of this organization. We presently have about 1,800 children that we're looking after in 437 households. We are not an orphanage per se or an institution, so we look after children from their different homes and townships around Soweto. Most of the orphans are due to HIV and AIDS. And the cruelty of it is that rather than bringing us together, it just like tears us apart. And people don't realize that, in as much as we are seeing death all the time, but we need one another. So sometimes in our own pain, we withdraw. It just blows your mind. It just says, no, it's not right. It's just not right. And then on the other hand, you have children who have terminally sick parents. And you just, at the middle of the night, a child calls you and says, my mother can't breathe. And at the core of your heart that that's death. And this little girl is saying to you, no, I'm trying to feed her, but she's not opening up her mouth, and the child is not even aware, because that's their mom. To them, their mothers don't have to die, and that to me is like it causes us so much pain that we are at a moment where we just numb to pain. You get numb to pain. You just look at situations, but because we have seen other situations solving themselves, we say, okay, even this one can be solved. But at your taking this outside of your mind is that that a child is suffering. A child is going through so much pain. When your food gets delayed sometimes because you don't have any donors, and at the back of your mind you're thinking that, my God, these 437 families have gone home to sleep without food. And those are some of the small little effects of what HIV and AIDS does to our communities and to caregivers as well. I see children here all the time. I mean, there's a 10-year-old girl who comes in here every day at 3 o'clock to come and do her computer studies. She's beautiful. At 10, she has lost both parents. you know. And when I lost my own son, I mean, one of my of messages of condolences came out from her when she says to me, you know, I did it. I lost my both parents, and so can you. You know, and I said to myself, how, you know, like, how can, you know, like, this little girl, to me, has lost steps in her life. There are steps that she missed, you know, and as a 10-year-old, she speaks like an adult. And to me, it was like, no, it's not fair. You know, it's not fair. She did not have to suffer pain at that age to say to me as an adult that don't worry, things will be okay. You know, and I'm saying to myself, what, you know, like, what's going on?
We as a country are disgusting when it comes to aged care. And you've seen the abandoned babies, you've seen the townships, you've seen the child-headed households. Where in the world is it acceptable that a child of 9 could head the household?
Very often they have to find their own way. They have to survive in a very tough world. And that can be heartbreaking.
You know, we had the World Cup here last year, and stunning, and we played our guguzellas, whatever the bloody things are, and we had all these people come out. And millions and billions were poured in.
Each and every page had something to do with the World Cup. Yes, I know that it was media attention, but in my heart of hearts, I was saying, you know what, there's HIV and AIDS as well. You know, let it get as much publicity as what is happening, because it's killing people. It's just like making us numb to pain, and which is not right.
For every rand that goes into sport, a rand should be going into child care or for the children. Because around every sports soccer stadium that was built, that cost a fortune. Kids were dying of hunger, or being raped, or going to bed hungry, not going to school. And that is obscene.
Yes, we're seeing hope, so much hope, you know, and you're seeing little beacons of hope going around, regardless of color, you know, from black, white, Indians, all of us coming together and just being those little ripples of hope, you know. But I think in those ripples of hope that go on and on and on, somehow we have despair.
My message is always to people that they should find what it is that they find value in, that they feel that they're contributing value to, and do that thing. Because if everybody did that, I really do, I believe the world would work a lot better. If I had the power, I'd shake the world and just say, hello, you know, do what makes you happy.
We've got to give our kids a future. We've got to let them see further than their little noses and know that there is a future and that they can have dreams rather than just fight for survival for today.